The Vanished Village. It was a late October afternoon when Ellie Roberts first heard about Crenshaw, a small village tucked deep in the woods, miles off the beaten path. Rumors about the place had circulated for years. A town where people simply disappeared, swallowed by the mist that clung to its borders. The stories were always vague, passed around in hushed tones at the local bar or whispered at bonfires. But Ellie didn't believe in ghost stories. As a freelance journalist, she thrived on uncovering the truth behind urban legends, and Crenshaw seemed like her next big break. Armed with a map she'd pieced together from old records and the directions of a few elderly locals, Ellie set out for the village. The road leading there was barely more than a dirt trail, overgrown and forgotten by time. As she drove, the trees grew thicker, their branches creating a canopy that blocked out the sun, casting everything into an eerie twilight. The deeper she went, the quieter it became. No birds, no rustling of animals, just silence. Finally, after hours of driving, the village came into view. Crenshaw was small, barely more than a handful of dilapidated houses clustered around a crumbling church. A fog rolled in, thick and unnatural, but Ellie pressed forward. The place seemed deserted, but as she stepped out of her car, she felt something watching her. It was a sensation that settled deep in her bones, a crawling feeling that she couldn't shake. Ellie began exploring, taking pictures and jotting down notes. The houses were empty, as if the inhabitants had left in a hurry. Tables were still set for dinner, beds unmade, toys abandoned in the street. But there were no signs of life, no bodies, no graves, nothing to suggest where everyone had gone. As she approached the church, Ellie noticed strange symbols carved into the wood of the door. Symbols she didn't recognize, but that seemed ancient and foreboding. She hesitated before entering, but curiosity won out. Inside, the air was thick with decay, and the floor creaked under her weight. The pews were empty, but at the altar, a large book lay open, its pages filled with indecipherable writing and strange diagrams. Something about the book unnerved her, but before she could investigate further, a soft whisper echoed through the room. "Ellie." She froze. The voice was faint, almost a breath, but it was unmistakably her name, heart-pounding. She turned toward the door. No one was there. She hurried out of the church, scanning the village for any sign of movement. The fog had grown thicker, curling around the buildings like fingers. Panic welled up inside her, but she tried to keep calm. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she saw something, a figure moving through the mist. She called out, but the figure didn't respond. It simply glided away, disappearing into the fog. Ellie's journalistic instincts kicked in. She followed, her camera ready, but no matter how fast she walked, the figure remained just out of reach. Then, without warning, it vanished. Ellie found herself standing in front of an old well at the edge of the village. The air around it was colder than anywhere else in the village, and she could hear a faint sound coming from deep within, a low, rhythmic chanting. She peered into the well, but the darkness was impenetrable. The chanting grew louder, and she felt a pull, as if something was calling her down into the abyss. She backed away, but the sensation grew stronger, a pressure building in her head. She stumbled, feeling dizzy, and before she knew it, she was falling, plunging into the darkness.